So, also, fangen wir mal ein neues Spiel an. So. Also. Schauen wir mal.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he'd been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move.
So, dann machen wir doch mal was.
Longest time.
Die
But as
Stimme
he came
sagt.
to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay. Machen wir es mit Controller. Ist bequemer.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
So. Nein, hier ist niemand. Hier ist auch niemand. Nein, absolut niemand. Also. Aha.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Okay, dann gehen wir mal den normalen langweiligen Weg.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Fancy, fancy.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Wir.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Hallo Kalti. Hallo, danke für den Follower.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ja, schauen wir mal. Spooky hallways.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ja, Mind Control oder der Escape. Mind Control, Escape. Mind Control. Und natürlich, wir sind gefangen. Wir lesen, was da steht. Ja, das ist Hexcode. Sieht mir nach Hexadezimal aus.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ja, vielleicht. Meine Güte, was die gekostet haben müssen. Oder, nein, die sind einfach vom LKW gefallen, ich weiß schon.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Schauen wir mal. Also was ist nochmal Stanley's Nummer 6, 2. No, 4268.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Yes. Probably. Yes.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable.
Ja, er hatte Kontrolle über andere Menschen.
Was it even
Schlimm.
possible?
Ganz
Had he
schlimm.
truly spent his entire
Ich würde
life
niemals jemanden
utterly
kontrollieren.
blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Mein Controller offline, mein Controller offline. Ich muss ihn wieder einschalten. Gut, in der Pit ist nichts. Nein. Nein. Und die Knöpfe bringen mir auch momentan nichts. Mein Controller offline, mein Controller offline, mein Controller offline. Großer roter Knopf. Den ich nicht drücken kann. Ganz super. Hallo, ich will den großen roten Knopf drücken. Da kann man drücken, okay. Macht auch nichts. Danke nochmal für den voller Caesar.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Danger, electric shock risk. Off. Und das war's, Ende der Geschichte.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
It's never over.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand,
braucht schon Glück,
but to let go.
wenn Macht hat.
No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Na,
That was all he knew.
bezweifle ich mal.
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Und wir direkt in einem Büro sein, nehme ich an. Ach so. Ja, verdammt, die Kamera. Oh. Ja, verdammt, gleich kurz abgelenkt war. Nee, Freiheit. Aber hey, ich kenn
Stanley felt the
Porter.
cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new.
Oh, dort wird sich. So, echt, wird noch schon, dass ich bin. Ah. Ah, ich habe noch nicht umgestellt auf Stanley Parable. Meine Güte, sag mir das noch einer. So,
New path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen.
ja,
And Stanley was happy.
not really. Also Glück ist eine Ansichtssache. Von dem her. Das war so klar. So, dann spielen wir mal weiter. Ja.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bitte noch. Gut. Delta White, okay.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ich wünsche, ich könnte es mehr lesen. So, jetzt machen wir die genau gegenteiligen Sachen von ihnen. Attempting import. So,
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
nope.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ja, schauen wir mal.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley
Natürlich
simply stood here,
Coconut.
drinking it all in.
Ah, die Wände. Sehr schön.
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Oh, das kann ich jetzt nicht lesen, auf die Schnelle.
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Food. Fuel, 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 das ist gut.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
Welches das wohl sein könnte. Also $2,50 für eine... Ja, $1,52 für eine Dose, das ist doch Wucher. Zack, zack, zack. Warte, stimmt die Uhr? Nein.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Nope.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? What?
Yes.
I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Sagst du noch was? Danger everywhere. Okay, also Gefahr. Überall Gefahr. Gefahr! Hallo? Der Controller kommt ein bisschen okay. Gefährlich. Alles hier ist gefährlich. Gefährliche Kisten. Gefährliche Tür. Gefährliche verbarrikadierte Fenster. Gefährliche Rolltore.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood.
Yes.
Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red... All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what
Nothing.
lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was
Yes.
it worth ruining the entire story I had written out
Yes.
specifically for you?
Yes.
Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles?
Yes, madam.
Skill trees? Work
Yes.
with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1?
Yes,
That's not even
everyone.
helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I
Prep
guess
the
it isn't my
game.
place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Try me. Ich bezweifle, dass das ein echtes Leaderboard ist. Ja. Oh ja, und nochmal was.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep
Nope.
walking through doors?
Nope.
Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting.
Ja,
You wouldn't mind
okay.
taking a look at it, would you?
Nein.
Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a
Oh.
very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice.
Yeah,
but of course,
Kunst.
the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective?
4
Be sure
Stunden.
to keep notes on your experience.
Nein, interessiert mich nicht.
You heartless bastard.
Yes.
Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because
Both.
if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for you. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh,
No.
hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here?
Ja, also Copyright Infringement
Yes,
auch noch.
this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Natürlich,
Well, Stanley, is this any better?
what?
At last, the one thing you've always desired. A game I had absolutely nothing to do with. But is it enough? Tell
Aber
me
das
that, Stanley.
ist Alpha
Will it ever
Minecraft.
be
Oh
enough?
mein Gott.
Well, I'll say this,
Oh mein
and
Gott, das
I'm
ist so
making
sehr
things for
Alpha
you.
Minecraft.
From now on, I will only create to fulfill a greater artistic purpose. Watch this, Stanley. I'm going to build a house.
Ist sogar nicht das Haus nicht bauen. Komm schon.
This will go here. No, here.
Oh, so eine
And then-
Scheißhütte. Eine klassische Scheißhütte wie am Anfang.
Let's see, what does
Das
it need?
bräuchte-
Yes, of course. And just to
Bräuchte
finish it
besser.
all off, yes, it's complete. I made this, Stanley. Look at it. Gaze upon my work of art and feel
Hallo,
ashamed at your
Boy.
own inadequacy.
Ja, Minecraft,
But
immer.
you've only seen it from the outside. You've only gotten half the
Hallo,
experience.
morgen.
Please, step inside and make yourself comfortable.
Nein. Das. Ich verweigere jetzt mal in dem Durchgang alles, was es sagt. Ja, geht. Ich hab's gerade erst angefangen, also. Komm schon. Ja. Auch schon durch. Und hast du auch schon Stanley Parable gespielt? Kannst mir auch keine folgen. Ich würde jetzt mehr spielen. Ich spiele Donnerstag, Freitag und Sonntag Minimum. Und auch zwischendurch. Also komm, geh
Isn't
mal
it
rein.
grand? Isn't it perfect? It could only be better if...
Gott, ich baute
Wait,
in eine
That's it. We must rebuild it out of diamond.
Oh
Diamond
Gott.
everything. Yes,
Oh
yes,
Gott,
yes.
der ist so
Come along,
einer.
Stanley. We have to go mining.
Oh Gott, das war einer. Nein, ich bleibe im Haus. Was, scheiße. Den nächsten Durchgang ist, werde ich wahrscheinlich so machen, dass ich nur jeden zweiten Befehl von ihm befolge oder sowas. Oder was soll ich
My,
für,
it looks like it's going to get a bit dark. Have you brought a light?
sag mal da, Max, was soll ich für einen Durchgang machen? Nur jeder zweite Befehl oder?
Oh, no, 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 no. This is far more open-ended than I had in mind. I'm looking for something more narrow and linear. Something that makes you feel utterly irrelevant. This won't do at all. 1 out of 5. Even the diamonds couldn't save this one. Okay, new game.
Diamanten sind immer gut. Weil die Diamantenrüstung. Obwohl, ich müsste jetzt wieder mal Minecraft spielen. Wegen dem, Ender-Update. Oh Gott. Natürlich.
Yes! I don't even know what this game is, but I love it.
Banause.
You, trapped in a glass box with no way out, listening to me talk.
Kunstbanause.
Oh, it's inspired. I couldn't have done it any
Wie kann man
better
Portal
myself.
nicht kennen,
What is
meine
this game
Güte?
even supposed to be? I can't figure it out. Okay, now I'm curious. Let's go find out what the hell this is.
Junge, du hast die Portale vergessen. Und das soll ich jetzt in einem Jahr aufmachen oder so? Warte mal. Eigentlich nehme ich doch eigentlich immer. Ja, verdammt, ich kann den Schwung ganz so nicht nehmen. Also, wenn ich Portal spiele, will ich immer die Anleitung versenken und das Radio mitnehmen.
Oh, it's a puzzle. Critical thinking, Stanley. Your forte. Genius.
Ja, genial. Gratis wäre stolz.
No, actually, you know what? I think that's plenty. I really don't care much to see you stumble through any more of these games, and I highly doubt you're any wiser for the experience. Which is why, rather than continue to...
Ah. Filling the gaps, okay. Aha. Da komme ich nicht rein. Okay, das Office-Gebäude war sehr, sehr runtergekommen. Ah, da ist der Licht am Ende des Tunnels. Ah, meine Augen. Ah. Nein, der Blue White. Was?
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice.
Ja.
And if he's
So
learned
ziemlich.
the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion.
Nope.
That's who I am.
Nope.
That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon.
Du bist nicht der Terminator.
Very soon. I can wait.
Also. Spiel fortsetzen.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Komm schon, du Controller.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ton. Wie kommt da Vogelscheiß hin? Wie zur Hölle?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered
ins
the
Auto.
possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment
Wir
for
sind
no
alle
reason
verrückt.
at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
Ja, ein
What a
Traum.
relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon.
Nein.
I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Keine
Now
Ahnung.
the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
Piff Animal.
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Chocolate
Now, hearing the
Meeting.
voice speak
Auf
these words was
einen
quite a
Laster.
shock to Stanley. After all,
Okay.
he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one.
Ja, frisch
Let
auf.
me wake
Ganz
up.
böse.
He thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing
Hm.
buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the
keine
way it's
Kinder.
always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Und das immer wieder. Was? Nein.
Stanley began screaming. Please,
Ah!
someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Tot.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Okay.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Komm schon. Ja, ich muss nur einen Adapter für den Controller holen. Einen Funkadapter. Oder Bluetooth für meinen PC. Weil der Controller funktioniert ja noch, es ist nur der USB-Anschluss und das Kabel, was ein bisschen im Arsch ist.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Nope.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Ja, ist auch gut. Der Ballchart is invading. Using sites to assure employees are everything okay. Make sure that slides are thick. Ja. Genau. Wer es glaubt. Chart seit in Charts, okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nein, den Scheiß was können wir auch nicht. Business time.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Yeah, 5.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
Yeah,
he stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Gut, hier kommen wir auch nicht weiter.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
Multi-Netflix,
Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength
Da kann man
to
einen
find
ganzen
out?
Satz über. So, dann aktivieren wir die Monitore.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Schauen wir mal, wo unser Monitor ist. 429 müsste es sein. Da ist es, ja. Ah, darüber 427. Da kann man leider nichts tun. Also. Aufzüge aktivieren.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time?
Nein,
Was this the only
niemals.
reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Vielleicht.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
On, please.
Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you?
Doch.
After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Ja. Ja.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
Doc,
oh, dear me. What's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Und Butch. Das war's. Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. What a beautiful room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing in your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley.
What? Really?
I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
Yeah.
Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted
Ja,
to
wenn du
stop.
den Raum nicht auf
We
unendlich schalten
would
würdest.
both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Okay, gehen wir mal rein. Ins Nichts.
What do we want? What are we looking for?
Den Sinn des Lebens, das kann ich nicht sagen. Das ist 42.
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we
Oh.
just stay right here, No, wait. Where are you going? Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. No! Oh, thank God you lived. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die,
Doch.
we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
Darum.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room.
Nein.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill
Vielleicht.
yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I
Ja,
reading the
ich bin
situation
böse.
correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over?
Ja,
It's going to
endlich.
restart, isn't it? I'm going back. The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge
probieren
first,
wir mal
just
den
to admire it.
Escape.
The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back
Oder
to
nein,
business,
wir gehen über die
Stanley
Brücke
took the
drüber.
first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please.
What? Really?
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley.
Ja,
Everyone
danke,
thinks you are
danke.
very powerful. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ja, das wird sein.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it
Dann
perfectly
fahren wir mal
well.
dieses Mal ganz
Perhaps he
rüber.
wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
So, dann fahren wir mal rüber.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
Doch,
I
bist du.
realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but
Fakten.
you all this time.
Er kümmert sich
Someone
schon
you've
um
been
Fakten, es
neglecting,
alternativ
Stanley.
für Fakten gibt.
Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Nein, vergiss es. Nein. Warten wir mal ab, besser. Nope. Und meinetwegen.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about
You're down.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to
Nein.
commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. Sorry, but you're in my story now. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Nein.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Nein. Ich weigere mich. Was wird das?
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Ja.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Ja, Q, die
So
Zeichen.
he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Ja.
As he wandered through this fantasy world,
Ich
he
verstehe
began to
schon.
fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Ich
But there is no
liebe dich.
answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Schlafen
And I'm
gehen.
trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must.
So,
Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
okay, nächster Versuch.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Probieren wir mal die Escape Route.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Komm, mach auf.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Probieren wir nochmal die Tastenkombination. Kann man nicht, okay. So.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Yay.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Okay, da kann man nicht weiter.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ja, kann man sich auch die Grafiken endlich anschauen. Natur. Wir haben noch viel zu erkunden. Okay, das bin ich auf ein paar Ideen. Go. Okay, dann gehen wir mal weiter. Oder warte, ich will noch mal da runter schauen.
See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design. kind of thing you'd pick up on intuitively if you had even the most... Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his... Of course, you being you, you'll probably spend the next hour trying to solve it. Here, I'm just gonna make this...
Okay. Ja, ich glaube, das war es jetzt dann, aber... Ja.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Und Ende.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Und ups. Das war's. Nein, noch nicht. Ja, ich glaube, das war's für heute.